his department contacted the Home Office's preeminent pathologist to help with the investigation. The pathologist wanted all the baths in which the women had died sent to London for further tests.
From the public, sir. Possible solutions.
Apologies. Cabby ignored my instruction. Took an incorrect route. Are you just going to stand there, or should we get started?
That was Dr. Spilsbury, a brilliant man. Perhaps a little too aware of it even then.
With Bernard Spilsbury's assistance, the police uncovered more and more about George Joseph Smith's life. They soon found out about his earliest victim, Bessie Munday, but were always aware that it was going to be a challenge to prove he was a murderer. The bodies of George Smith's 3 dead wives were exhumed, but little more could be learned from their decomposing remains, even by the esteemed doctor who examined them. This was Dr. Bernard Spilsbury. The science of forensics was fast developing, offering new and exciting ways of catching and convicting criminals. This was a time proud of its technological marvels. And in Spilsbury, the nation had found a real-life version of Sherlock Holmes.
Bernard Spilsbury made his name with the Crippen case and quickly established a tremendous reputation.
He became the prominent pathologist who would deal with high-profile murder cases.
He was very much like Sherlock Holmes. The one thing he always insisted on was a good sense of smell. And there's a couple of famous photographs where the remains are out in the open and Spilsbury's bending over with his nose in these rotting flesh. And the detectives at the side are turning away, and it's quite clear one or two of them are going to throw up what they're seeing and smelling.
Spilsbury had been crucial in securing a conviction in the international sensation that was the trial of Dr. Crippen. Even more recently than that, though, Spilsbury had been called in for the case of Frederick Seddon. Seddon, just like George Joseph Smith, was accused of taking advantage of a woman, stealing her money, and then murdering her soon afterwards. Spilsbury gave evidence at the trial that led to Seddon's conviction for the murder of Eliza Barrow by poisoning her with arsenic, obtained from flypaper. But it was the Brides in the Bath case that would ensure Spilsbury's legacy.
His reputation was so great at one point, even if he was wrong, jurors were prepared to believe him rather than another pathologist who in some instances were clearly right. He had this legendary reputation.
As Bernard Spilsbury became more and more prominent and well known, pathology took a more and more prominence at these murder trials. It was more and more scientific, and it actually developed, if you like, the whole area of what we would now think of as being forensic science.
Inspector Neal and Sergeant Reed carried out an experiment devised by Dr. Bernard Spilsbury. The Kentish Town Police and Dr. Spilsbury would work tirelessly, trying to work out just how George Joseph Smith caused 3 of his wives to die in a bathtub without obvious injury or even clear signs of drowning. However, Spilsbury would have a flash of inspiration.
They do like a good murder. Mr. Marchant from Highgate writes, "It is quite possible to suffocate a person recumbent in a bath by pouring into it a sufficiency of carbonic acid gas." I worry how he came by such knowledge. Does Mr. Smith strike you as a scientific man, Doctor? Doctor!
In 1841, the Caledonia sank off the coast of Cornwall. When the captain's body washed up on the beach the next day, something rather curious was noted. The shock of going into the water had rendered him unconscious so quickly. He still had a bag gripped in each hand when they found him. Inhibition, it's called. There was no sign of struggle.
Mrs. Munday had a bar of soap in her hand when the doctor came.
And no sign of struggle.
It was a theory. That was all. Not something that we could get a conviction from. So we worked hard, right down to the rock-bottom facts. And by the end, we had 253 exhibits. Marriage certificates, death certificates, letters, photos, you name it. Every scrap of evidence I could gather. This man was not going free.
The trial was one of the most complex in British legal history. 112 witnesses from 40 different towns. The public were transfixed. A welcome distraction from the war in France. English justice continuing unabashed. The sprinkling of sex and scandal, together with the strangely alluring figure of Smith himself, helped draw big crowds to the Old Bailey. Smith would be defended by one of the most famous barristers of the time, Edward Marshall Hall. And Dr. Spilsbury's theories would be put to the ultimate test when he took the stand hoping to secure a conviction for murder. The police had George Joseph Smith in custody. He was clearly guilty of bigamy, but they were determined to convict him of murder. Dr. Bernard Spilsbury had developed a theory as to how Smith had dispatched 3 of his wives, which he wanted to bring before the court. In accordance with English law, Smith was only tried for the murder of the first victim, Bessie Munday. But in a legal first, the prosecution was able to use the deaths of Alice Burnham and Margaret Lofty as evidence of the work of a serial